Last question. Want to know if any relatives of the main character have been after making the film? Any respondents? If the relatives or families of the main character?
If they are alive?
No. Is there any living relatives?
Yeah. Of John Rabe. Well, there is of John Rabe. There's a grandson, two grandsons actually, and a granddaughter who live in Germany, and one of them had, sort of like helped us a lot with, because he has a small archive of the real things. So there you can see the pictures of the swastika flag in his garden with the Chinese civilians under the swastika flag and stuff. So that was very interesting. There are also of the other characters. There are relatives. Dr. Rosen. There's a quite big family of his in Berlin with whom we spoke. There is let me think. Of the headmaster, there are no relatives because she committed suicide in 1941. So I don't know. I would have to think.
Was Dr. Wilson an American?
Yeah, about Dr. Wilson. Wilson is an American, but he was a son of two American missionaries who lived in China. He was born in China, so he was actually fluent in Chinese, which Steve didn't quite manage. But he left China right after the Nanjing massacre and never went back. And so he was the founder of the Golu Hospital in Nanjing, which still exists to the very day. And then he went back to the United States, or he went to the United States and lived there. Just about the other ones, Georg Rosen also left Nanjing after the massacre. He was then kicked out from the diplomatic service in Germany. He escaped to London, and from London to the United States. And after the war, he re-entered the German diplomatic service and became, I think, German ambassador in Venezuela. About the school headmaster, I said that she already said she killed herself. I think that's, and John Rabe, as you could read, he came back to Germany and tried to tell people about what had happened in China. So he wrote a book which he tried to publish, and so to inform people about what happened there in Nanjing. And as the Japanese were German allies at that time, the Gestapo arrested him, took his diaries away, kept him in prison for some time, and he lost his job at Siemens. And he was, told not to speak about what happened in China. Then, after the war, he didn't get the denazification certificate, which was necessary in order to find a job. So he was, out of work, and then they lost their apartment also because it was bombed in the war, and so he died in 1950 in complete poverty. And which is interesting that he had an offer from Chiang Kai-shek to move over to Taiwan at that time when Chiang Kai-shek already was in Taiwan, and get a house there and a pension and live there in very nice conditions, but under the condition that he would testify in front of the war criminal tribunals in Tokyo in favor of the Chinese. And so Rabe said, look, if I testify and everybody knows that I'm getting something for it, like, a whole life, actually then people will think I'm bought and I'm not, an honest witness. So he turned down that offer and stayed in Germany. But until the very end, he received care packages from China with food and stuff. So it's quite extraordinary. How did Steve Buscemi end up in the film? Steve has always been one of my favorite actors. I mean, a long time before I knew him and before he knew about me, I have tried to, see all his films and stuff. And when I was writing the script, I thought, well, we can at least try and send the script over. So we sent the script to his agency, and for I think about 4 months there was no answer, and I had long forgotten about the opportunity, and we were thinking about other people. And then suddenly there's a call from his agent who says, yeah, Steve read the material and he's interested. And then it was very difficult, for a German production to deal with an American agency, and it went back and forth, and for a long time. And 6 weeks before we started to shoot, I had never spoken to him. I'd never met him. And I said, look, if I, don't meet him now, it's, maybe we meet and he doesn't like me or I don't like him, and then it's not going to work out. And I was in China already at that time, and then I flew to New York just for one lunch. So I, arrived from the airport into the restaurant. We had lunch, and I immediately went back to the airport and back to China. And it was a very nice lunch because Steve is not only a great actor, he's also an outstanding person. And he said, "Look, I normally get a different type of character offered, like quirky, little criminals or something like this. So I hardly ever get a serious person who tries to do something good, and that's something that is challenging for me, and I want to be that character." And furthermore, he said the father of my wife was called Robert Wilson, so that's that's maybe also a sign. So yeah.
Moved by the film because you grew up in China and you witnessed some of those atrocities. And yeah, thank you for your comment.
And I think that's time for one more question. Yes, the lady there.
Well, the comparison with Schindler, I mean, as a historical character, and with Schindler's List as a film, is something that obviously, happens. I think there's a big difference in between the historical characters, especially because Rabe is much earlier, it's 1937. So it's still a different, political situation, and it's in front of a different cultural background. But still, for the Germans, I think Schindler's List was a very important film because it showed a type of character that we had not seen in films about the Second World War so far. And in that sense, Rabe is also a character because he doesn't fit into the pattern that you would normally have. He is surprising as a character. And I think that after these are the unusual characters who are like also it's more gray than black and white, and it's not like clear is it a good guy or is it a bad guy. In the beginning he's very strange, and then he transfers into someone who does something great. So I think in the beginning you